Hello guys and welcome back to the Russian Football News Predictions League. Our last international break of the year has finished dramatically for Russia really. The Luzhniki hosted its first game since being refurbished and lost to a goal that shouldn't have been given for offside in the build-up against Argentina. Wasn't the greatest performance, but it was encouraging that Argentina and particularly Lionel Messi were kept relatively quiet. And then in St. Petersburg on Tuesday, Cherchesov was more adventurous against Spain, conceded 3 goals, 2 of which should not have been given for very, very controversial penalty decisions. And 3 goals scored. Fyodor Smolov with a fantastic double gave Russia a 3-3 draw at the Kostovsky. So very, very productive, I would say. Very positive international break for Russia. We found out last night, in fact this morning, that Peru will be the 32nd and final side to qualify for next summer's World Cup after they beat New Zealand 2-0 in their second leg playoff. So that's all the international area covered. But we're here for the Premier League. So let's just get straight to it. And we kick off with an Army derby. The Sports Club of the Army Khabarovsk against the Central Sports Club of the Army Moscow. Away in the Far East. This is our first game of the weekend. And for you UK viewers, I'm sorry, but this means one thing. It means a 9 a.m. start on Saturday. So get your predictions in early for this one. Well, let's just take stock, shall we? SKA Khabarovsk, they were starting to build a fearsome reputation at home, but they lost last time out 2 weeks ago to Arsenal Tula at home. It was a disappointing result. Arsenal are on very good form, in fact they're into the top half of the table, but it was SKA's home form that was giving them any hope at all, and that will certainly have damaged their confidence somewhat. CSKA Moscow, well, they were winning against Lokomotiv fairly late into the game as well. But they could only draw, well I say only draw, league leaders away from home City derby. That's 2-2 is a good result. Alan Zagorev, back playing for Russia anyway, played a significant part against Spain, came on against Argentina, so he should be fully fit and available. So how do we see this? Pardon me. How do we see this one going? Surely CSKA have got to be looking for the win here. If we look at the table at the moment, they're in 4th place. They're only 1 point behind Krasnodar in the Champions League places, but behind them, teams are piling up. Spartak are only 1 point behind CSKA. Ural 1 point behind them. Arsenal Tula 1 point behind them. So they drop points away to the bottom club in the league. It's just not good enough. And I actually do expect them to do that. I think it's not going to be high scoring. How many times have I said that on these preview videos? I don't expect it to be high scoring. But the truth is, if you look at the stats, they don't lie. SKA Khabarovsk, they have scored 12 goals all season in 16 games, and that's in total. At home, they've conceded 10, which is quite surprising given how relatively solid their home form generally was considered to be. CSKA have only scored 17. Only Ufa in the top half of the table have scored fewer. So you're not going to be surprised by this. I'm going to go for 1-0 to CSKA Moscow. Moving on, Dynamo Moscow against Akhmat Grozny. Last weekend, last time out, Dynamo Moscow visited Ural in Yekaterinburg, and they gave a very good account of themselves. They were 2-1 up, and bearing in mind that Ural had only conceded, on average, a goal a game. I don't think they'd even conceded twice, actually, this season. They needed a Gregor Balasic equaliser in the 90th minute, so very positive signs there for Dynamo. Now, Akhmat Grozny, well, pardon me, they got the win against struggling Rostov. Rostov are sinking fairly quickly down the table. They're now only 1 point outside the relegation playoff zone. But a positive result for Akhmat Grozny, who still don't have a full-time manager after Oleg Kononov was sacked. But new manager has come in, caretaker manager. So, how do we see this one going? Dynamo Moscow have a strange home record, really. They're in the automatic relegation zone, second bottom. Now, they're only conceded 5, which is the best defensive record in the league, alongside Arsenal Tula. But they've only scored 8 as well. They've only lost twice, but they've only won twice. And I generally think they have one of the better sides, certainly a top half of the table side at home at least. Just the record isn't quite showing it. But against Akhmat Grozny, this is a tough one to be fair. But I think for this one, I'm going to sit on the fence. I'm going to go for a draw. I'm not entirely comfortable with that, but it's a very difficult one to see. I'm going to go for 1-1, just to cover my bases. I have to be honest with you guys, that one's a hard one to call. But anyway, that's what we're going with. Okay, moving on. Krasnodar against Spartak. Now, this is a huge game in the context of the season. Like I mentioned earlier, Krasnodar in 3rd, Spartak in 5th. If Spartak win, then they leapfrog Krasnodar. Depending on CSK's results, Spartak could even end up in Champions League places by the end of this weekend, which is absolutely mad when you consider how much people were considering Massimo Carrera as the next sacking, only a few weeks ago. But their unbeaten run continues. So, last weekend, Spartak, solid win against Ufa at home. Nothing spectacular, but they did the job. Krasnodar beating Tosnol away, another Fyodor Smolov double. That's his 3rd double in 4 games for club and country. The man is on form. There's no two ways about it. Pavel Mamayev is back, and of course we know the combination those two have had over the years. So only positive signs for Krasnodar. Spartak, they might have Roman Zobnin back. He's been touted as being fully fit for, actually more than you'd think now. But he was called up to the Russia squad for the experience as much as anything. He didn't get any game time. It was never planned that way. But he might be back for his club. Spartak have had a few players on international duty, as have Krasnodar, of course. I'm going to go for a Krasnodar win in this one. I know Igor Shalamov had that terrible run of 4 consecutive defeats, but I just get the feeling Spartak away from home, they just haven't convinced. They've only won once away from home all season in 8 games, and they've conceded more goals than anybody except Anzhi Makhachkala. Now that tells a story. There's a confusing side for me this season. They really should be much higher up the table, and they're already 5th. But I think Krasnodar, they're on form. I know it's only short-term form, but it's very hard to put a price on Fyodor Smolov being on good goal-scoring form, and he is. So I'm going to go for a Krasnodar win. I'm going to go for 2-1, Spartak. Zobnin back, bit of a boost, but I think Krasnodar are going to take that. Okay, and then next up we have Arsenal Tula at home to Rubin. Well, Arsenal Tula, they're just on absolutely flying form at the moment. They've won 4 of their last 5. In fact, they've had more points than anybody in the last 5 games. Up to 7th, they're only 2 points off the European places. Arsenal Tula, 2 points off Europa League places. Like I mentioned earlier, they had a very, very encouraging win away to SKA Khabarovsk, all the way over in the Far East. They're only the 2nd team to do that this season, after Zenit on the opening weekend. Then Luka Djordjevic, he's on 5-6 goals for the season, on loan from Zenit. They're looking good. Simple as that. Rubin, on the other hand, well, they had a very encouraging 0-0 result against Zenit at home. If I say last week, you know what I mean, in the last game week in the Premier League. Rubin, 0-0 at home, solid, but they're just not convincing. They've only won 5 games all season. They're down in 10th, only 2 points off the relegation zone. And if truth be told, they're really actually not on good form at all. If we look at the statistics, pardon me, sorry. They've won once in 8 games. I mean, it's as simple as that. The statistics don't lie. I think Arsenal are going to win this. I'm not going to go overly adventurous. I'm going to go for 1-0 to Arsenal. But simple as that. That's how I see it going. Okay, moving on quickly. We're running out of time here. Ufa against Ural. Now, this is going to be a very, very tough game for Ural. Away from home, although Ural have had a fantastic season, 6th place, and that's having dropped points last weekend. Last game week, sorry, at home to Dynamo Moscow. That was a very disappointing result given the league placements, because that could have kept Ural in the European places. It didn't, however. And away from home, Ural's 2 wins have both come in the last 3 minutes of games. On the other hand, Ufa at home, only 8 goals conceded. They are a much tougher opposition in front of their own fans. So I think a draw is a fair prediction. I'm going to go for 1-1. I am tempted to go for 0-0, but I'm going for 1-1 simply because I just think that Ural are starting to... Well, they're starting. They've been clicking for a while now. I think they've got that in them. Okay, Anzhi at home to Lokomotiv. Really do have to motor on here. Anzhi, a win away to Amkar PM. What a result that was. And they are, slowly but surely, crawling out of danger. They're now out of the automatic relegation places. Lokomotiv, in their context of their season, a disappointing result at home to CSKA Moscow. But here, actually quite a tough game to call this. I'm going to have to go, I think, overall. I think Anzhi are going to get something out of this. I think they'll get a point. I've always been slightly on the negative or conservative side for Loco this season, but I really do think Anzhi will get something from this. And I'm going to go for another 1-1 draw. I don't know what it is. I'm still not convinced by Lokomotiv. I mean, that's not by the team as a whole, but just a lot of their statistics have been slightly overshadowing what I've seen as slightly unconvincing performances at times. But anyhow, I'm going to go for a draw. And most likely, Lokomotiv will prove me wrong, but that's how I'm going for, 1-1. Zenit at home to Tosno, a St. Petersburg derby, in fact. I'm going to go for Zenit win. Simple as that. Last weekend, yes, they drew away to Rubin Kazan, but away game, it's a very different proposition. Yes, they haven't won in, 5 games, which is unprecedented for them, but they are still second in the table. Lokomotiv have a trickier game away to Anzhi Makhachkala, so plenty of motivation there. Not that they need any more motivation, but there is some. Tosno, well, I thought they would be higher up than they are by now. They haven't quite kicked on like I thought they would. Losing at home to Krasnodar, I was actually surprised by, even given Krasnodar's form and Fyodor Smolov returning to scoring form. So I think Zenit are going to win this one. I just cannot see their winless run going on any longer than this. So even their international break, the Argentinian players played both the games in Russia. Of course, they lost 4-2 to Nigeria in Krasnodar. So they haven't had to travel too far. I'm going to go for Zenit win. Score, I'm going to go for 2-0 to Zenit. Okay, and finally we have Rostov at home to Amkar. Pardon me. Rostov last weekend, like we say, they lost away to Akhmat Grozny. Not the best result, if we're being quite honest. Amkar, well, away from home, Amkar are solid. They've only scored 4 goals, but they've only conceded 6 as well. So honestly, I see this one being a draw. There's quite a lot of draws coming in this weekend. I'm going to go for 0-0 in this one, simply because neither side have a great deal of goal threat. Rostov have only scored 5 at home all season. So there we go, guys. Best of luck with your predictions this week. Get them in quickly because we've got a Saturday morning early start. But for now, good luck.